Andrew is on.
Hey, late night from Willowdale. This is going to be a very short video. Uh, we're talking Mother's Day, May 12th. We're at Mother's Day, May 12th, 2019.
Well, we're slightly past it, but yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's true. We're at May 13th now.
May
It's
13th,
1:06 in the morning. Yeah, May 13th. So past Mother's Day. All right. So last night I sent out a letter to Now. They had a really good Now Toronto's Entertainment Weekly, free weekly.
Which was part of a series, by the way.
Yeah, and they had a really good article on how much is art worth to you, and it was about should museums, theater, cultural things, concerts, theater, museums should how should they be free or have obviously have lower admission prices. I'm not going to belabor the point. I was focused on museums because that's where I go. The Art Gallery of Ontario has free Wednesday nights, and the Royal Ontario Museum has free afternoons. I'm not sure, but time of the week. But the Art Gallery of Ontario has free Wednesday nights, and they're extremely popular. The place is packed. And because people like to see art, they want to see art, and the AGO isn't just Rembrandts and Monets and Picassos. They have indigenous art, they have all sorts of different arts. Their AGO is world renowned for having a more eclectic, more wider base in terms of their art, not just European artists or Canadian artists, white Canadian artists like the Group of Seven. But it's what I'm saying is the place is packed. People want to see art, and they love it when it's free. So I sent a letter to Now saying yes. As soon as museums, the Now magazine article said only basically 10% admission prices only account for 10% of revenues. Donors, wealthy donors, all sorts of different things count for the different revenue, government funding, whatever. Admission prices are only around 10%, and the article said it's hard to administer admission. But it'd be easier not to even have to have admission.
It's like UBI.
Yeah, people would just come in. And I was thinking, so my letter was saying, yeah, as soon as possible, let's move to zero admission. Let's have free museums, the big museums across Canada. The National Gallery, the Museum of Fine Arts Montreal, the AGO, the ROM, and all the others. Because, art should be as accessible as possible. We should encourage people to go to art. Theater and rock concerts and all that stuff is different because you have to pay artists and you have to pay. It's a different sort of thing, I think. But, obviously, anytime you can have lower admission costs for those events as well, that's a good thing. But I was also saying in my letter, and I think it's very important, Streetscapes. The biggest free art we have, anyone who lives in a town, small town, village, a big city, is streetscapes and our
Notre Dame.
Our architectural heritage. Okay? And anyone who's been to New York City or Paris or London, just to walk the streets is a joy. To see all the great the different types of architecture. New York, you have Art Deco, you got everything in New York, and of course Paris and London, older cities. You have an amazing streetscapes, as you do in Rome, and some of the great world cities in Latin America, Buenos Aires and Montevideo and Uruguay. I mean, it's amazing streetscapes. So. And they're free. You can just walk along the street and look at them. I always love going to New York and, you look up at the Woolworth building or the Chrysler building or, the Equitable Life building, of course, the Empire State building, all the amazing old architecture you have in New York of the, late, the 19th century, early 20th century. So streetscapes. And in Toronto, we're losing our streetscapes. And that's not Toronto, a lot of cities. Yonge Street, our historic Main Street, a lot of people see it as seedy, but it has some of the most beautiful late 19th century, early 20th century architecture. And we're losing it to condo development. as a lot of cities. New York City too has rampant condo development. Not as bad as Toronto. Toronto's got
How many cranes do we have in the?
Toronto has 104 cranes in the sky.
Wow.
More than any other city in North America. Seattle has 59. That's the biggest competitor. Seattle has 59. Toronto's 104. I think New York City only has 26 or something. Toronto's crazy. Condo development everywhere, and you see it. Our streetscapes are being destroyed. Yonge Street, most famously, and it's horrible. It's a tragedy, and some of the streetscape is being facaded, but that's terrible too. You want to keep the original buildings, and some of So the biggest free art, I think, some of the biggest free art anywhere on the planet are our streetscapes and our architectural heritage. And that's for Toronto, that's for New York, Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, all the great cities of Europe and Latin America, anywhere. We need to keep our heritage buildings, and we have to have serious laws protecting heritage buildings, and protecting architectural preservation.
Is there any downside to heritage law?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a downside at all. I mean, some buildings just aren't. You can't save them. I get it, but and they have to be destroyed. But rare. A lot of these. Come on, these buildings are built solidly. A lot of these buildings are solid, and and we need to keep them. And so, yes, we need to have low admission prices or free to our great museums, but we also need to make sure that the biggest free art that we have is our public spaces and our architectural heritage on our major streets. Okay, that's going there, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. And if you live in Toronto, just pick up Now Magazine. It's a really good article. So now I want to just talk very briefly with something I wanted in the last video. It was about school shootings. We all get jaded. Everyone's jaded about school shootings mass shootings in the United States, and school shootings. But I think, I was Fareed Zakaria's show on CNN today, picked up a few points, and Nicholas Kristof had a column in the New York Times as well. Some stunning statistics. Okay, first of all, in 2019, there have already been 8 shootings at U.S. schools, okay? That's incredible when you think about it. In the last 4 months. Memphis, Baltimore, Kansas City, Montgomery, Alabama, Prescott, Arkansas, Highlands Ranch, Colorado, the one last week, Savannah, Georgia. I mean, it's just on and on and on. Like, okay, gun violence in the U.S. is so crazy. We've talked about it in videos. Everyone talks about it, and people just roll their eyes every time there's another shooting in the U.S. And school shootings, as we said, already 8 school shootings this year. But we have this incredible example in New Zealand where there was a mass shooting at the mosque, and I'm going to read you these statistics from Nicholas Kristof's column. The mass shooting took place in March, and it just took Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern 26 days to tighten gun laws and ban assault rifles. 26 days, okay? It took her after the mass shooting to tighten gun laws and ban assault weapons. 26 days after that mass shooting.
Well, was that mass shooting more systemic than the U.S. or you know what I mean?
There are very few mass shootings in most parts of the world, in the industrialized world, and when there was one in Australia a number of years ago, they tightened their gun laws right away. New Zealand, 26 days to tighten gun laws in New Zealand.
You're just saying like 26 days, like come on, folks, right?
26 days. The U.S., okay.
Right.
As Kristof says, the first big mass shooting at the University of Texas took place in 1966, claimed 17 lives. And afterwards, we've had Sandy Hook, Las Vegas, Parkland, Orlando, you name it. 53 years of inaction and no serious gun laws in the United States. New Zealand took 26 days to tighten their gun laws after the shootings at the mosque. 26 days. The U.S. has had its first mass shooting in the mid '60s. 53 years, 1966. 53 years, no action, and these shootings continually happen. As Christoph says, since 1970, almost 1.5 million Americans, have died from guns since 1970. And that includes suicides, murders, and accidents. And that's more. This is the interesting thing. That's more than the 1.4 million Americans estimated to have died in all the wars in American history that go back to the American Revolution. So they estimate that 1.4 million Americans have died in wars that goes back to the American Revolution, but they've had almost 1.45 million people die because of gun deaths since 1970. That's incredible. Let's think about that. They say there's more. 100 Americans die. Well over 100 Americans die every day due to gun violence. 100 Americans a day die due to gun violence. And that's, obviously including suicides, murder, accidents, you name it. 100. And
but how do you get rid of guns, though? Like...
You got it, and that's because of the accessibility of the guns, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because of the accessibility of the guns. No other country has that, okay? No other country in the world has
But do you
that.
want to get rid of accessibility?
Of course you want to you should ban guns.
Mm.
I'm a big fan of banning all guns. Canada actually, of all countries in the Western world, we have some relatively loose gun laws, nothing compared to the United States. And of course, Canada tightened its gun laws too after the massacre in Montreal. But we still have some, Canada has a serious gun lobby too. And
but isn't
Canada
it, yeah.
still has gun. You can't buy a handgun. You can't buy the weapons in Canada. You can in the U.S. And Canada's gun violence, a lot of the guns are imported from the U.S.
Like, isn't like the Niagara border, filled with...
Well, it's a sieve, right?
Okay.
These guns get smuggled across the border.
Right.
Canada should tighten its gun laws even more. But there is a serious gun lobby in Canada. So, what I'm saying is nothing compares to the United States. 100 deaths a day due to guns. 100 deaths a day. Okay? Think about it. Almost 1.5 million people since 1970. That's stunning. That's really stunning. Die of guns. So yeah, all these school shootings, 8 already this year, and it's just nobody cares. There's the hand wringing, and we all come together. We're Americans. We all love each other, but no one does anything about gun control. And what a wacky society that is. That's all I can say. What a wacky society that allows that. Your kids can't go to school because you never know if they're going to come back. You never know if some whack job has easy access to a gun is going to go postal, So, anyways, enough of that. There's other issues to talk about, but that was pretty much the 2 issues I want to talk about. Let's keep this short. So, but let's have a little Christmas present here. One of my bucket list items was always to get a USS Enterprise. This has nothing to do with politics. Well, I guess it does because
there were 2 major ships.
The Enterprise. But look at that. Finally, Clee got me my
physically ordered it, but
1701. I just got that in the mail the other day. Well, it's a bucket list item. Obviously, Star Trek is a political series, and that goes back to the 60s.
The first interracial thingy.
But also...
We've saved civilization as we know it.
There you go. That's what did Kirk say?
Once again, we've saved civilization as we know it.
That's kind of a racist statement. But Star Trek was Star Trek was very militaristic, grew up during the Vietnam War, but it was also very interracial. It was very...
Anti-religious.
It was anti-religious. It was secularism. It was about tolerance. So it was a mixed thing. But I finally got my Enterprise. I haven't even taken it out yet. But it's going to hang right beside the Wright brothers were playing there.
There you go.
So
Wright brothers ain't looking so good these days, but whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of busted up.
Yeah. Head banging.
And the Saturn V there.
The Saturn V and the...
Yeah, so...
It's a real cornucopia of things.
But yeah, I'm going to hang this, and that's my little toy.
To get out of the plastic.
But
you can't?
take it out of it yet.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, let's get a closer look at it.
Yeah.
And then if you push
It's-
the...
Yeah.
Once again, we've saved civilization as we know it.
There you go, Kirk.
That is kind of
Kirk
racist, isn't
Enterprise.
it? I mean, Sarah would be very upset.
Yeah, it's kind of a race. Well, Star Trek, Star Trek was a series of its time. It was militaristic. It was really about the United States, but it was also it was about intervention, but it was also about tolerance and, as you say, remember when Captain Kirk kissed Lieutenant Uhura, and that was a big deal. And people, of course, William Shatner always said, "Hey, I'm from Canada. That wasn't a big deal for me." But of course, interracial kisses in the United States in the '60s was a big deal. So Star Trek was a very interesting series. A lot of these television series, they explored all these different issues. Like MASH, obviously, to me the most political, most interesting series on TV, even to this day.
Other than The Simpsons, right?
Well, Simpsons to a point, I guess. And of course, All in the Family, and the Jeffersons and all that. But Star Trek was a very interesting.
And they didn't shy away from personal attacks too, right? From criticizing the human condition and all that stuff,
No, exactly. But yeah, it was obviously the Enterprise represents American power, right? And there's an aircraft carrier named after the Enterprise. There's a space shuttle named after the Enterprise. So, but it was also about tolerance and exploring the world and having a better vision, and multiracial world and whatever. So it was a mixed message on Star Trek. But I got my Enterprise. I'm going to take it out of plastic eventually, and I'm going to hang it right beside the Wright Brothers plane, maybe between the Saturn V that went to the moon and the Wright Brothers plane. On that note, tutti a tavola a mangiare.